Hello, good to see you, Vi. Always a pleasure. Okay. Well, I was a multi-sport athlete. I had the luxury of having parents that were pretty gifted physically, so I got a little lucky on the DNA side of the fence. So I played baseball, I ran track, and I played tennis. Track and tennis were my two primary sports. Back then, there were two primary sports based on the season. And I was a really, really good track athlete, and I was a good tennis player. Um, so for me, sports were a basic part of my life. It was scheduled into my day, and I loved it. There was very little time. I was either reading or playing sports. I didn't have a screen. I didn't have a screen very much. I was lucky. I was lucky. The screens are such a distraction right now. It was great to just be able to go outside and then come in and read and then go outside again. That was great. Yes. So it was really interesting because in the area I grew up in the South, and it was interesting because sports in the South are virtually a part of life. So we even had times in our school day where only the athletes were in the gym doing their classes or working out. You could have your workout session as part of your PE. So it was actually built into our curriculum. Um, it was also easier for you to manage your schoolwork because if you were on the athletic side of the fence, you had a programming hour at the end of the day. It was They used to call it serendipity period. So it was seventh period. You could either leave early, and if your work was completed, and you could go to your practice sessions early, so do your warm ups or your stretching or your rehab or whatever you had to do, or you could use it as a study period. If your grades dropped, you had no choice. Your seventh period was now study hall. But if your grades were a 3.0 or higher, you could leave in that seventh period and begin your athletic training. So it was there was no such thing as school and athletics. They were both conjoined. And for example, on our tennis team, we had two kids who went Division 1, and one went to Notre Dame, and he was, arguing with me about who was going to be valedictorian. So there wasn't a situation like we have now where some kids were here, some kids were there, some kids couldn't train until 3, some kids trained at 9 a.m. No, this was everyone trains at the same time, and everyone is either in study hall or they're getting together earlier. So it was uh it was very different than the environment we're in now. The recruiters came to the school. They met with your guidance counselor. They would pull you out of class if they wanted to talk to you about a scholarship. Your parents would be there at lunchtime. Everyone's freaked out. As soon as you see your parents' car, you already know, okay, I'm either going to the guidance counselor or the principal. Which one is it going to be? So, and if both were there, then you really had a heart attack. So, yes. And so it was very interesting. We were very, for lack of a better term, we were very segregated, boys and girls, in terms of the times that we were in the facility, because I went to a Catholic school that converted from public school. They were public for the majority of the time they were there, and then they converted to the GISA, which in Georgia is the Independent School Association. So the independent schools now are made up of both private schools and then the Rivers and the Laurel Springs homeschool programs. They all participate in kind of the independent school system now. Um, but when I was there, they were transitioning from the GHSA, which was the public school system. So being a Catholic school, a Catholic independent school, there was a lot of separation between the boys and the girls on what they did day to day, but the programming was the same. The girls just had a different time where they would be in the gym, and the guys had a different time where they would be in the gym. And there were some co-ed events, um, just for participation purposes, mixed doubles, things like that. But for most part, there wasn't a huge difference between what the girls were doing and what the guys were doing. Everyone had a goal. Very few people talked about pro sports back then. That was mostly on the football side, and then on the track side, we would talk about the Olympics. Um, I was fortunate that I was kind of in that conversation nationally about track. Um, and then an injury took me out, which is kind of a conversation for another day. But that was it was an interesting time because to say you were preparing to be a pro athlete when in the 80s and 90s was very different than today. You were not identified that soon. Uh, Today, I think